everyone. Thank you for joining us in our third webinar, Change versus Progression, with Mr. Hatem Mahmoud.
Thank you, Haifa. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Depends on where you are in the world. Greetings from Riyadh. I would love to say sunny, but it's actually cloudy a little bit and rainy and sunny and dusty and everything. I mean, it's March, and that's how weather is in this part of the world in Riyadh. But it's really, I'm excited and happy to be with you in our third Educators Clinic webinar. As always, we have one free webinar per month to exchange ideas and insights with fellow educators from across the world. So please feel free to write down any question you have, any comments you have, and Haifa will stop me as we go to read out your question or your comment as we move forward. Also, this is an interactive webinar, so although you might not be able to chat, for example, but you are able to write down your findings and your comments and answers and insights on Mentimeter. So please join menti.com and use this code 4215-4979, or just if you have your own device, scan the QR code and you will be directed automatically to our session and to our slides. And you can actually go through the slides on your own device as much as you have it in the recording right now. So if you have two devices, you can actually feel free to join and follow up from each or any of which. All right, so change versus progression. I was really intrigued by this quote: "Don't confuse motion and progress." So many times we feel that we are doing a lot, but we are not actually getting things done. If you have ever felt this way, please give a thumbs up on the slide in front of you. I already have 3 thumbs up on the slides, now 4 thumbs up. Excellent. So we're not in this alone. So let's see, moving forward, what is, if any, difference between change and progress and progression. Does any change that happens lead by default to progress? Of course, maybe not. Some change may not lead to progress, but may need to regress. Do we have to change intentionally, or does change happen unintentionally? At the end of the day, change is inevitable. So let's see. Again, I just reiterate the fact that you need to be on Mentimeter to follow through on these slides, these interactive slides. And the first quote is, "Change is the only constant in life," by Heraclitus. Change happens inevitably. Change happens structured and unstructured. Change happens intentional and unintentional. Change happens if you are conscious of it or if you are unconscious of it. But change does happen, whether you like it or not. And the idea here is how to manage change, which is a really, really tricky process and one of the most complex processes in life. The scope of this webinar is not only for professional life, it's also for personal life. We are also addressing educators across the world, but it is also for all human beings. But if we are specifically as educators dealing with change every single moment of our professional life and personal life, of course, we want to change our learners from a specific time in their learning journey to another specific time, from a specific position in their learning journey to another specific position. And of course, educators around the world now that might be doing their gradings and markings and report cards and having these conversations with parents. And I hope that we really regard grades and marks as just a reflection of where the student is at that time of the year, in this term, in this midterm, in this trimester, in this semester, or whatever, and not as a label that labels the child or labels the learner for good or for life, because really this might be a perception. And here there is a really tricky insight when it comes to perception versus reality, and how do we perceive reality from each perspective, from the perspective of the teacher, the educator, and from the perspective of the learner, the student. So again, reiterating the fact that change is the only constant in life. As educators in the process of learning, managing and leading the learning of the learner in front of us, surrounding us, we need to put that into consideration and really highlight it so that we can create positive change in leveraging the level of attainment and the level of progression. Again, change versus progression. So, starting with your own personal or professional experience, I would like us to share some insights here. So, please get your devices ready. Write down your thoughts in two aspects. One, what change led to regression? A specific case study, a specific example, a very brief one, just out of your maybe short-term memory, or if you need long-term memory. And the other second aspect is what change led to, sorry, it's led, not led, it's a typo, to progression. So one specific example about change in life that led to regression, and another that led to progression in your professional or personal life. And this change, whether it was intentional, structured, or unintentional and unstructured. So please go ahead and write down your thoughts. I would give that a couple of minutes. So just for me to be aware of who is with us right now, please give me a thumbs up on the slide as you write. You can write responses up to 200 characters. Okay, we have one. I can see one question in the Q&A as well as we speak. I cannot type in the chat is disabled. So Neela, Ijaz, we're not writing in the chat. We are writing on Mentimeter. So on your own device where you are following up on Mentimeter, you will find this space over here. If you can see my screen. Oh, I think you can't. But yeah, you can write down on a text box a short answer, and you can submit by clicking submit, and it will appear. So we have an answer. I intentionally tried multitasking, thinking it would make me manage time more, but it was a total disaster. Okay, so that was a change that led to regression, a change of a style, a change of a technique, a change of a methodology, so that you can, manage your time properly. Thank you for sharing. Another one. Changing a few teaching strategies led to confusion and instances of misunderstanding. Yet, on the long run, it is supposed to lead to a deeper understanding of concepts and content. Okay, that's deep. So sometimes change might instantly lead to regression before it actually leads to progression, if I'm understanding this insight correctly. Very, very deep. And we will shed the light on that very soon as well in the following slides. Thank you for sharing. That's really deep. So we have 2 likes. We have 2 people on the slide. We need to wait just for a couple of minutes more to give enough time for others. So share with us an anecdote, a situation in your life where you felt that change did lead to regression, or sometimes change led to progression. And basically, the idea out of this thought process is to realize and acknowledge and articulate the fact that we are not just seeking change in life. Change in itself is not a purpose, it is actually inevitable. It happens anyway. But the idea is to manage and direct change that happens, whether intentionally or unintentionally, whether by us or by our surrounding factors, towards progression for us and to make the best out of every single situation in life. And of course, as educators in the classroom. All right, so we have a third insight here to share. Regression occurs due to a negative change or disruption in circumstances, okay, leading to a decline or deterioration in performance, development, or quality. Okay, so that's kind of like more of a thought process about the definition of regression. Negative change, I 100% agree, of course. But also sometimes, as the second thought was highlighting here, sometimes changing may lead to a little bit of a regression. Sometimes it gets worse before it gets better. You know, we know that famous saying. So yeah, definitely. Thank you so much for sharing your insights. All right, so let's move on. I will be sharing with us 5 models of change management. Historically speaking, there has been lots of research and lots of models out there to structure change, to make as much as possible predictable patterns. By predictable patterns, we mean that because we're not in this for the very first time, we're not reinventing the wheel. I mean, life has been lived by many, many people before us. So by learning from experience and by learning from situations, you create or you actually can read and instill some patterns. So the first model of which is the Beckert-Harris change equation. And that equation goes as follows. That's as simple as it can get. D by V by F greater than R. So the D stands for dissatisfaction. So here, Beckert-Harris change equation claims that the incentive for change is dissatisfaction. If we are not happy with the way we are, with our status quo, with our monotonous situation, and we need to change it, then this creates the change. So primarily dissatisfaction. We are not happy with the way things are going because Y, X, Y, or Z, whatever. Then the V is the vision. If we're not happy with where we are, where do we want to be? So we need to see where we want to be, a goal. So what is the preferred future? What does it look like? What does it feel like? Is this vision clear? Is it shared? And so on and so forth. So that's for the V. The F, or in some equations, they write it FS, which is first steps. So I have to also look at the first steps, what they call the quick wins, the early adopters, for example. You can call it whatever, depending on how you see it. So what is the acceptable roadmap towards achieving this vision? And how can I get there? So this also needs to be articulated, whether as a person, just for a simple change in my life, or as a team, or as an organization. And of course, the dissatisfaction grouped by the vision with the first steps should all be greater than the resistance for change that will inevitably happen by myself, by some of the members of my team, by the organization, by the community, by whoever, because people are always resistant for change. We have a tendency to staying in our comfort zone because it is our comfort zone. People like to be comfortable. But people who are visionary, people who are change leaders, people who are catalysts for innovation, they love to defy and to challenge the status quo. So accordingly, they love the idea of getting outside of their comfort zone. So they are very willing to manage the resistance. What are these obstacles and how are we going to face them? Because definitely there will be obstacles. So that's in a nutshell, the Beckert-Harris change equation, the first model of the 5 that we are going to tackle and going to shed the light on. The second model is the Noster model. And the Noster model is a little bit more comprehensive, a little bit more detailed. And it really is regarding 5 factors in the equation that will definitely lead to change if these 5 factors are not missing. So these 5 factors are vision, skills, motivation, which is the incentive, the drive to change in the first equation, resources, whether physical resources, human resources, digital resources, you name it, plus, of course, an action plan. Who will do what, when? That's kind of like a project management part. So if all these 5 factors in this equation are present, effective change will happen, and hopefully a positive one. But of course, there are multiple articles on that I've read as well that contradict this model, because these models tend to simplify the change process. Change process is really complex, and it cannot be put in a very simplistic way as is. So the model tends to put out there that if the vision is missing, then this will create confusion. However, sometimes you still have a vision, but you still have some confusion because you did not convey the vision properly. It might be only in the mind of the leader of the team, but yet not conveyed to the team, not conveyed to the community. So there might still be confusion, not just because of the fact that the vision is missing, there is confusion. If the skills are missing, there might be some kind of an anxiety over there because we have a vision and we have a goal and we are motivated, but we cannot do what we are planning to do because of the lack of our skills. But there might also be skills, but what type of skills? Are they hard skills, soft skills? Are we putting the right people in the right places to do this, or do we need some kind of team optimization so that skills are used to the maximum in the most efficient and effective way, and so on? Motivation, if that's missing, if we are missing motivation, if we're missing the incentive for ourselves and for each and every part of the team, would that create resistance, or should we actually, or could we face resistance even if we have motivation? And of course we will face resistance even if some of the members of the team are motivated, or even most of the members of the team are motivated. You might face extrinsic resistance, not primarily intrinsic from within the organic team members. Resources. If you're missing some kind of financial resources, physical resources, human resources, would that lead to frustration? Well, you might still have all the types of resources that you have, but you might face frustration for some other reasons. And the action plan, if that's missing, this could be a false start because you're just maybe focusing on quick wins and you feel accomplished by this false start and false sense of success. So that's, in a nutshell, the Noster model of managing complex change. And of course, all change is complex. The third model is the 7S framework. So the 7S framework are basically factored from starting from a shared value. So here, the starting point and the stepping stone is a shared value. And when we define simply value is something that is important to each and every member of the group that are seeking this change. So if we are in the same group, but we have different value sets or different sets of value, different important aspects of how we do the work or what we do in work, then accordingly, we will not reach the same goal. So that's the beginning. That's the stepping part, shared value. That's the S, the first S, shared value. Then we have 3 hard S's, the ones in green, up, and we have 3 soft S's, the ones in red, below. So if we start with the 3 soft S's, primarily it's skills, staff, and style. So the right people and the right skills to do the work and the right technique and style of maybe leadership and but also of the team members to acquire and achieve the strategic objective and the strategic goal of change that is anticipated. So these are basically the three soft S's. Now, if you move upwards to the three hard S's, you find the difference between the strategy, the structure, and the system. And of course, it starts with the strategy because it's driven from the vision and mission, which are driven from the shared value. So the starting point is the shared value. You move to the vision and mission. Then you have strategic goals. The strategic goals are basically the titles, the headlines of how are we going to do our business? How are we going to lead this change? How am I going to basically and specifically, for example, lose weight if that's the change that I want, as simple as it can get. And the structure, of course, when it comes to the organization, that's the organizational structure. Who and what do we put in place so that this strategy is actually fulfilled? And then the systems is basically the flow of work. So how do we make sure that the people and the resources that we put in that structure can work organically and symbiotically, seamlessly in this systematic approach rather than in silos and in separation to reach and execute the strategy? So that's basically the 7S framework, and that's the third model. A fourth model, and that's a very famous one, is Kotter's 8 steps of change. So John Kotter created these 8 steps of change into 3 basic domains. The first domain is creating the climate for change. You need to create the climate for change first. The second domain is engaging and enabling the organization, all the stakeholders in this change process. And the third one is implementing a sustainable model for change to anchor this change to the culture of the organization or the culture of the family or your own culture so that it is actually here to stay. And it's not going to be just an ad hoc change that happened. So basically, the first domain starts with creating the urgency. Again, if people don't feel there is an incentive and dissatisfaction, according to the first equation, then people will not be motivated to change it. As people say, if it's not broken, why fix it? Step 2 is form a powerful coalition. Where are your early adopters? Where are the people who are initiators, the people who are innovators, the people who are motivated, catalysts that will bring about change in the organization with you and be the early adopters to create this first majority. Step number 3 is create a vision for change. And this leads to the second domain, which is engaging and enabling the organization. After you create this vision with the early adopters, with your coalition, you start communicating the vision effectively to all other stakeholders. Then, accordingly, you will have action that is empowered because you have actually communicated the vision. So you will start creating the early majority and create the quick wins. Many people refer to quick wins and maybe even earlier than step 6. Now it comes in step 6. People might start with early quick wins in step 2 or step 3. So mind you, number 1, that it comes in step 6 out of 8 steps for change. So don't rush early or quick wins. Secondly, as well, quick wins might give a false sense of accomplishment. So you have to build on these quick wins, and that's step number 7, which is in the third domain. You have to build on these quick wins to create a culture of change and then make it stick, anchor it, and build on it the following change and the following change and the following change. People, of course, get incentives and incentivized and motivated by successful and by celebrating successes, but this might also be a double-edged weapon that might impede actual sustainable change moving forward, which is by step 7 and step 8. So that's basically the fourth model that we have in this talk today. And the fifth model is actually not a model, but just a very simplistic way, but yet very realistic as well, way that that explains change from Franklin Covey organization. So I would leave you for a 1 minute and a half to watch this video, and then we can comment on it together. Please, if you hear the voice correctly and loud and clear, please give me a thumbs up on the slide. Okay, so I got a comment that you cannot hear well, so I'll just take out my earphones, my AirPods. Maybe that's the reason why.
Change is happening all the time. Just look around. The question is, will you use it to your advantage? The status quo is constantly being disrupted, and for good reason. Organizations and teams and individuals are looking for more effective ways to get results. Becoming good at change allows you to gain a stronger competitive edge. Successful change doesn't just happen through processes alone. It's the people who ultimately make change happen.
Now, I'm not saying change will be easy. The good news is, while every change is unique, there's a predictable pattern. First, everyone's comfortable in the status quo. It's business as usual until change hits, and then everything's disrupted. Results start to suffer, and rules seem to change until everyone knows what's changing and why. They won't reach a decision where they commit to the change. Next comes adoption. Teams, leaders, we adapt, we learn, and adjust. It looks nice and smooth, but in reality, it can feel very chaotic. Stay focused and persistent, and you'll be rewarded with incredible new opportunities.
Remember, effective change is not just about following a process. It's about leaders engaging their people to redefine what's possible.
All right. So persistent and focused and identifying what's possible. This comes with experience, the last one. But persistency, consistency, and focus. This is really the key takeaway, at least for me, when it comes to leading change. And this is basically the takeaway of the video, this graph, which is the x-axis you have is time, and the y-axis you have is results. So, and of course, just before we go into the details of the graph, time is a critical factor for effective change. If you want change to happen very quickly, it will not be sustainable, whatever this change is. Even when it comes to multiple research in psychology, they say to bring about a habit, you need from 20 to 60 days to create a habit, and even also to break a habit. It's as difficult as it is. And it's not about the difficulty, but it's again about the consistency. That's why the time factor here, which is the x-axis, is crucial. You never give up quickly and easily, because if you do, then you are sacrificing the results of all your efforts. And that's whether on the personal realm or in the professional realm as well. So as the results go up, they will not go up by time. They will go down first in the disruption part. Status quo, everyone loves it. The comfort zone, everyone loves it because we keep doing what we're doing. That's how we've been doing it for so long, and we keep having the same results. But again, if you seek any difference in results, any progression, you will have to change. And when you change, you will have some regression first. That's in the disruption part. So in our findings, we had one of our contributors and participants wrote that very righteously. So, and that's the slide where we can reflect on that. So it gets worse, and then it goes up to progression. And of course, with the adoption, there are lots of chaos. There is lots of struggles, there are lots of challenges, but also there comes lots of opportunities. But if you keep doing what you're doing and you're focused, persistence, you have grit, you have resilience, then you will reach your goals. And that's why we hear all the motivators speak about these skills. And these are the 21st century skills that are really needed for future leaders and future learners. And we need to focus on these skills, the metacognitive skills, while we are teaching our students and learners, because this will be eventually what creates change leaders and decision makers and game changers in the future, what we really need to have a better and more peaceful world around us. So that's kind of the fifth model of change, the Franklin Covey one. And now, if you want to prioritize, there are lots of models and lots of steps and lots of perspectives. But at the end of the day, it's really, really, for each and every one of us, I would like you to sum it up in just one word. If you want to prioritize just one key element for change that leads to progress. Of course, might lead to regression first, but now we understand the bigger picture. What would that one key element be? Please go ahead and submit your findings. System. So we only have one so far on this slide. I will give it a couple of minutes for everyone to be with us on the same slide. Please scan the QR code and you will directly be directed to this slide and write down your word. So far, it is system. And yes, I agree. System actually ensures the flow of action from or through the structure that has been put to reach the strategy goal. So if there is no system, you will never reach any goal in any organization, no matter what the strategic goals are very well articulated, no matter what the structure is put in place, but there is no system to actually maintain the workflow. And there is no system, for example, to reach your goal in, building muscles or finishing a course for professional development or losing weight or, for example, preparing for a marathon or whatever your object is or objective is. Okay, all right. So we have persistence, we have risk-taking. Yes, 100% risk-taking and getting out of your comfort zone. You have to be a risk-taker. Consistency and well-managed time. Okay, time management. I know it is an issue. It is an issue indeed. But time management is part of course, of the skills that are really, the metacognitive skills that are really needed nowadays, especially with all the distraction that we have. And it's really, really getting hard to focus on our goals, really getting hard to focus on our goals. Thank you for highlighting that. All right, brilliant. So we move on. Another quote, you can notice that I'm fond of quotes. Benjamin Franklin says, one's ability to adapt to those changes will determine your success in life. So again, we said that change is surrounding us. Change is inevitable. Change is the only constant in life. It happens whether we want it or not, whether we like it or not. The key factor is how we are adapting to this change. And that's where the adaptability is key. The adaptive quotient, the AQ. So now everyone was fond of the IQ and the intelligent quotient, reasoning, and then moving forward to the emotional quotient, emotional intelligence, social intelligence. But now the key intelligence quotient is the adaptability, the AQ. To what extent are we adaptable to change? are we able to change ourselves according to the change that happens? And of course, needless to mention, COVID and forced this adaptability on us, and it is here to stay when it comes to the adaptability, the skills that we have learned, and hopefully not the pandemic for sure. All right. Another quote, when it comes to confusion of emotion and progress, the one we started with, that is a very, very insightful figure that can help us, have a mental image of a rocking horse that keeps moving but doesn't make any progress. I keep doing stuff, but I don't get stuff done. And there is a huge difference between doing a lot of things and not getting things done. Doing a lot of things creates some change. I am busy. You know, the fact that the funny anecdote about busy doing nothing. So, but what actually am I doing? And of course, there is the 80-20 rule that is famous, that 20% of your effort creates 80% of your impact. And 80% of your effort might only create 20% of your impact. If you're mindful of that, you need to be aware of what and how to manage this change and to channel your energy to focus. Again, focus on what really your goal is for change.
Hatem,
Yes?
we have a question. So
Sure.
someone is saying, so if the change is negative, the best strategy is adapt or oppose in an organization.
Let me open the question. Okay, anonymous attendee asks, so if the change is negative, thank you, Haifa, the best strategy is adapt or oppose in an organization. Oh, that's a very intriguing question. So if the change is negative, is this change structured or is it unstructured? Is this change planned or is it unplanned? And is this negativity the end result, or is it the short-term result or a short-term impact? Because again, there might be a negative result of change, but the change itself was positive. So to actually judge a change, whether it is positive or negative, there has to be many factors in this equation. To begin with, if it's planned, if it's with all the good intentions, and if it's structured. The best strategy, if this happens, then to adapt or to oppose in an organization. Definitely adapting is the ultimate skill. Again, adapting to change, getting the best out of the worst situations. This is a skill. That's adaptability. And of course, if we refer to the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey, in habit number 1, which is being proactive rather than being reactive, when it mentions the 3 circles, the circle of the bigger circle is the circle of concern. We are concerned about many changes that happen surrounding us, but we might not have control over these changes. Then the inner circle, the smaller one inside the circle of concern, is the circle of influence. That's smaller one. And the smaller third circle is the circle of control. That's the smaller one. Now, the more I focus, again, focus, persistency, and consistency, the more I focus on the circle of control, what's in my control, and have 70, 80, 90% of my time and effort and work on this circle of control, it will expand, it will enlarge. And accordingly, the 2 out circles are going to be diminished because I'm focusing on what I can control. So if there is a negative, as per se, change happening, the best strategy, if I oppose it, then this means that I am mentally consumed by that change, which happened outside my circle of control, in my circle of concern. So accordingly, I will be a reactive person. I would not be a proactive person. So that's kind of a little bit of, maybe this answers the question, but it is also related to the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, which is a course by Franklin Covey that I really, really recommend for everyone. It has been a game changer for me when I took that back in 2008. Okay, so we move on. Denzel Washington says the following: enjoy life, work hard, understand that between your goals and your achievements, in order to achieve your goals, you must apply discipline and consistency. Again, we mentioned consistency, we mentioned the word focus, and we mentioned discipline now. And in order to achieve your goals, you must apply discipline, consistency, and never confuse movement with progress. Because you can run in place and not get anywhere. And honestly, when we mention focus and we mention persistence and we mention all of these nice advices about bringing about change in life or in your organization, personally or professionally, I would sum it up in one single word, just to make it very, very rememberable, easy, and never to forget. And this one word was written on a sticky note on the door of the changing room of the football team that was coached by the very famous series Ted Lasso. So if you have watched Ted Lasso, which is a very, very nice TV series about, it's on Apple TV, about leadership, you would find that when he came to coach a new football team, he's American, he came to coach a new football team in England, and guess what? He never played football in his life. He played American football, and that's a different game, of course. He wrote one single word on a note and stuck it above the door. And this was believe. This is the key word in creating sustainable change. You can never achieve if you do not believe. Anything that you work for and that you want to achieve and that you anticipate, if you do not believe it, you will never achieve it. And actually, this was also reiterated by one of my dear students back in the days when I used to be a school principal. I was in a class and I was in a lesson observation in an English lesson. And this exact statement was mentioned by one of the students in his presentation. You can never achieve what you do not believe. And by this, I leave you in this webinar of today. And thank you for your input, and thank you for your insightful comments and questions as well. And please keep making waves of positive change to the world. Thank you so much. And if we don't have any other questions or comments, we are happy to conclude this webinar for today. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Thank you, Hatem. Thank you, everyone, for joining the webinar. We're looking forward to see you in our upcoming webinars and workshops.
Thank you, Haifa. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.